Well, hello and welcome back to Chestnut Checkers. Looking forward to this week's episode. I am Keith Riddle, as usual, here with my co-host Jordan Tampien. And today we're just coming at you live with the two of us. But Jordan, you recently wrote a book.
Oof, I know. I got a fun one.
You got a fun book, or was it fun?
Yeah, it's fun. I've always enjoyed writing. I actually wrote another one.
Didn't you write a book before?
So the title doesn't age well. It's called Living at Zero. The concept works really well. That was the one I wrote before.
Your first book? Yeah,
that was my
Living at
first
Zero.
one when I was at WSU. And the idea was, it's kind of how me and Whitney did our finances, was like you build this, what do I need to live budget? And then everything else goes to investments.
Oh, okay.
And that's how we structured everything. Was like, all right, let's keep this. Let's say it's $5,000 a month to live, but we make 10. Well, that 5 then gets reinvested into businesses or real estate was kind of what we chose.
Okay.
And so it's good. But then my dad jokes with me now. He's like, yeah, Living at Zero. I bet you love that one now. And I'm like, well, the concept is there. And I thought it plays well. It's like the LAZ lifestyle. And so it was there. So this one was completely different. And so it's called Stacking Bricks. And it came from this concept when, as I was going through, how do you solve the 20 projects that are facing higher interest rates? How do you solve the businesses that are struggling with those parts? And I was like, I didn't handle it well. It's like a fire would be in front of me and I'd try to put it out. And
well, you didn't have to, right?
Yeah.
Before. So it's like, I don't know, like a book of the times, right? So the first one's Living at Zero. The second one's like, what'd you say it's called?
Stacking Bricks.
Stacking Bricks. But it's like basically the aftermath of Living at Zero. When Living at Zero goes well and then wrong. Or
yeah. And so it's called the Stacking Bricks, the playbook when everything breaks.
Okay.
And so what it came from was, well, one of them was this podcast, which was kind of one of my motivations, was like, how do you seek outside counsel? And then I had 4 amazing mentors. And so I'd just take notes and then I would journal every day. And I started getting to this point where when it got really hard, I was like there was no strategy to how I was overcoming it. And every day was this weight you carried. And then I was like, well, what if we could? What if there was a strategy? And so what this book does is outline like what to do, how to define it, and then how to work through decisions. And so now it's like I can face most of it because it just puts in a decision matrix.
Well, it's a little bit of that passing that wisdom down. I selfishly journal quite a bit too. And I've thought about writing a book. I've never touched it, but it for basically like for my kids.
Yeah.
Like that's how I look at it, right? Like if I was going to do it, I would almost do it from the frame of like I'm going to leave this like for my kids or a legacy. Just because anybody in life, I don't think it matters where you start from and where you end up, is like you accrue this kind of like, I call it crystallized knowledge of your life, right?
Yeah.
Hey, if I had known then what I know now, right?
Geez.
Like that famous saying,
true.
right? And we all can look back and say, oh, you know, I was young or I was dumb or I was naive. And that's just part of life. Like that's how everybody goes through life, because you don't know what you don't know until you know. But it's cool to get a leg up. It's cool to have, like you talk about mentors. I've been a big fan of mentors, but most of mine, a lot of I paid, they were coaches, right?
Yeah.
Like I've been a big fan of like business coaches and business and development coaches, and it's for the reason of like there are people out there that know things that I don't know, and I am struggling, and not even like in a bad way of like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling. It's just like there's struggles at every point in life, whether you're doing good or doing bad in general. You can be doing really good and struggling.
Correct.
And so what I realized was like I am struggling in various capacities in my life at various times, whether it was hiring people or training people, whether it was building a business or starting a business, whether it was managing finances or managing it. Like there's always been struggles. And I know there's people out there who have been down that road, right? Or who've been where I've been or beyond. And so that adage to me is kind of like, okay, so what do you know that if you knew then what you know now, like I'm then. So pretend I'm them or then, what would you say to me? And I think a lot of that is where I have seen a big divide in people who recognize that and seek that out, and people that necessarily, for whatever reason don't. But I think it's valuable. And so it's cool that you've done this, like leaning back to this. So it's like this book was premised on kind of like when things go wrong.
Yeah. Well, because it went right for so long.
Well,
and I don't even know, to your point, I don't even know if it was right as much as the market was right.
Yeah.
And I think what I realized was then the rates changed and I started blaming environment. I'm like, it's not environment. I made those choices. Right. So how do you step up and own those? And so then I would go like, all right, how do you work your way out of a hole? Like I think at that, like the point I wrote the book, that was about, I don't know, it's right around about $4 million lost like of actual cash, like trying to get through all this and make things right. And you're like, God, do you rebuild from that? Like, how do you get out of this part of it? And so the whole thing was being written, and then I was going to do my comeback. It was just going to be a comeback story. And then I was in the middle of it, and I'm like, Jesus, this is the book I was looking for a year ago. Like, I would have loved to be like, wait a second, let's frame this, because who knows, maybe I could have mitigated it sooner. And so I was talking to a buddy, and he's just like, he was struggling with payroll. I have to make payroll tomorrow. And if I don't make payroll, and I said, well, what happens if you don't make payroll? Well, then nobody gets paid. I'm like, okay, what functionally happens? You might have to go have a hard conversation with your employee.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
may have to figure out what the business looks like going forward, but you don't die.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have cancer. Like, you have a problem that's solvable. Now it's hard. And I think I built this life where it was easy. Somebody needed help, I wrote a check.
Yeah.
I didn't jump in. And then now what I'm learning through this is like, man, I missed out on a ton of life-giving advice and energy and pieces that now I can sit in conversations. I don't say as much. I just soak it in. But I realize that there's a lot of people that go through that. And I mean, I wrote about a story there where you just, like, you park in your driveway because you don't want to face the next piece. Like, I'd go to work, there'd be creditors. I'd go home, then there's creditors.
Well,
Whitney was a
the
great creditor, though. She
driveway
wasn't
is
as mean.
always such a transitional spot, at least for me in my life. And it's not, like, again, it's not bad. It's just like there's the work life. And then for me, there's the family life. And I think as you grow older and mature as an entrepreneur, like, one of the things that I had an aha about was, like, I didn't want my daily business dealings to affect my family, right? Like, to the best of my ability, right? Like, we're all human. Everybody carries a little bit of work, right? Yeah, bad day at work, it comes home a little, but the driveway was always such a pinnacle spot for me, because I remember it was one of my original mentors, but it was another agent that I had a lot of respect for. I remember him talking about when he started to get really busy as an agent, he caught himself one time coming home, and when he came home, in the back door, he was on the phone. He was talking to a client on the phone, and his kid or his kids ran up to him like, "Daddy, Daddy," and they ran up to him, and he said, I vividly remember I was on the phone, and he said, I put the phone to the side, and I kind of looked at them and made like a shh, like a shush sound, and I pushed them away. Yeah. Like, I took my hand and I kind of brushed my two kids back and was like, be quiet, but then also like step away from Dad. I'm on this call. And he said it just kind of killed him. And after that moment, he said, I just made a commitment that, like, I wouldn't do that anymore, which meant that I didn't want to, like,
not
come
call,
in the back door until
exactly.
the call was over.
Yeah.
So he would say, he's like, I would get home, and he was like, I would finish whatever business I had in the driveway. Because when I came in the house, the phone was in my pocket, or I left it in my car, because I wasn't ever going to, like, push my kids away or shush them when they're just excited to see me. And I remember that hit so hard, and I didn't have kids at the time, right? But I remember that hit so hard that when I had kids, I made sure that I did that same thing. So for me, the driveway is like this special spot, because for years, man, I have done probably some of my best and worst and most intimate business in my driveway of just like, man, I gotta go into this other world, and I can't take this stuff with me, or I don't want to, or I don't want to have to come back out here in an hour and finish
do
this
the call.
right,
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like that driveway, but that later in life turned into like just decompressing in my driveway.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just a transition.
Yeah. You're like times where I'm not even still doing work. It's like I'm coming from work, but even when you're driving, it's like there's traffic, there's cars, there's blinkers, there's signals, and I would get home and I'd be in my driveway, like, I'm not on a call at all, but I'm like, I just need to sit here for like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And I would just sit in my driveway. It's like, the neighbors probably think they're crazy. They're like, this guy just gets home and sits in his truck for
That must be a nice truck.
5 minutes by himself. But it was just, I don't know, the driveway. Maybe I'll write a book someday called The Driveway.
Oh, then how much happens in it? And I think, and to your point, it's like that's what I started realizing through it, because the issue was the growth was a ton of friends involved, family, people I got to know really well. And so when it turned, it wasn't just dollars. If it was just dollars, I can solve for dollars. The issue was then it's relationships, it's reputation, it's standing up in the face of things that you just don't want to, right? Like, naturally people don't want to. And I think for a while it was like, no, we'll make this all right. Like, what I realized was there was just no structure. And I think when things get harder, that structure and system is what gets you through. Right? Instead of reacting emotionally, instead of having that piece, it's things that I've learned. And basically all it was jotting it down, because I think
so what is kind of the premise of the book? I mean, obviously, so when things go bad, like what is the How do they build back? I'm not trying to wreck the book. I'm trying to this line of like, tell me a little bit more about the book, but don't wreck the book.
Well, no, I'll give you the basics of it. So there's Bill Ackman, hedge fund billionaire. If you ever see him, you'll see some clip about him. Had lost, I want to say, $4 billion in a day on a trade. And so he says this thing, he goes, well, and then he was going through a divorce, getting sued by, I think it was shareholders or investors, whatever it was. And he's trying to rebuild from that. And he goes, the best thing I ever learned was just do a little bit every day.
Okay.
He goes, so you're going to look back up at Everest. And and I was like, well, that's exactly what you need, because what I was trying to do was solve it all at once. And it wasn't working. And I was working harder than I've ever worked in my life, and it wasn't working. Things that used to work didn't. And I'm like, you're trying to learn and do all that. And then what it started doing was, that's why it's called stacking bricks. It's like, grab one you can do this week, something you can move forward today, tomorrow, the phone call you didn't want to make, the email you should send, the project you should get cleared off there. And as I was
just stack one brick.
And that's it. And then look up, and all of a sudden you have this wall. Well, then all of a sudden you have this house.
Over time. Like you stack one brick a day, and in the moment you're stacking that brick, it can feel defeating or almost like futile.
Like not worthless. Yeah, what am I doing?
This is a waste of time or whatever. I'll never get back. But what you're saying is, in hindsight, when you look back over weeks or months or days, is you can realize you're starting to build something or rebuild something again.
And I always thought it would be like one investor came in with a golden check, just wrote it, because it could have been solved with money. But the issue is I wouldn't have learned a thing.
Yeah.
And I would have made that person money back. It would have probably been fine.
Or what the lessons would have been different.
Way
you
different.
might have learned the wrong thing, or something that's not sustainable. Yeah. Right?
And it wasn't. I was looking at it. I mean, it wasn't that the deals we did are bad. I mean, that's what's hard, is like you could focus on the 4 or 5 that we're facing, but they were just the largest ones that had the most impact. But like the other 40 finished, we still have them. We've sold them. We've done. It's that I think what it could have been was a book on, hey, what to do in different markets when things change. I could write that one too. That makes sense. But I was like, but what I missed in this was I wasn't mentally prepared for when it didn't work. Like that. It's Mike Tyson one where you have a plan.
Right? It's a hard thing to prepare for. I can remember the first time it happened to me. And it's happened more than once, but I remember vividly the first time it happened to me, and it was, I don't know how to describe it. It was life-changing, right? But it was like almost disbelief, I think, is where I sat for a while. Like initially I was like, I couldn't believe it happened to me, or I couldn't believe I was in that spot. I was like, this is crazy. But then it was like, I think what you're alluding to with the book, but I had that same, I kind of floundered there because I didn't know, like part of me was reluctant to start because I was like, you're depressed or you're demoralized or you're ashamed or embarrassed. There's a lot of things that come with failure, especially financial failure, that if it's crippling, but then also like it never happened before.
Yeah.
So I was kind of hesitant to take the next step going,
Correct.
Well, shit, I didn't think I could have got here. So now I'm here, but like, I think I should do this thing, but maybe that's going to blow up in my face. Maybe, what do I do, right? It was almost it was debilitating because the belief in myself almost went away.
Yeah.
Like my modus operandus that had done me so well failed me. Yep. And then I was second guessing everything. I was second guessing myself. I was second guessing my modus operandus, right?
Correct.
Because and so then they say you go out and you seek mentorship, or you find out this has happened to other people, and even though that feels okay, or gives you some justification of like, okay, I'm not the only one, it still doesn't solve those problems. Like,
no, they don't go away.
I put my next foot.
You still got to come back and face them. And I think that's what I started looking at, was like the tangible things that you could do that allowed you to get across it, from how I communicate in an email. So I have this like 10-part checklist when I'm sending an investor or a creditor, vendor, whoever it is that I need to talk with. And it's a 10-part checklist in there of what needs to happen, because I'm an optimistic guy. Like, I know I'm going to outwork it. That's the farm kid meshed with the vision, right? I'm going to outwork it. I'm very confident I can do it. But what would happen is I would communicate and say, hey, Keith, this project, I have a term sheet. We're ready to get going. This thing's going to go in 6 weeks is what they're telling me. We're going to get this closed. Well, what happens when week 7 hits? Because the term sheet blew up because the rate didn't work, right? And so now I'm like, nope. Here's the term sheet I have. Here's the 3 risk factors I see in us being able to hit that, but know that I'm going to try to mitigate these too. And so it changed from this thing that was just hey, I want to make you feel good so I can buy a little piece in my life to solve this, to nope, here. And what I found was that 50% of the time, that worst case scenario I had in my head didn't exist. People stepped up.
Yeah.
and they'd help take ownership. And I moved away from trying to be the hero that solved it to the, hey, I'm going to be the guy working through this. And you can at least count on that I'm not giving up on it. And
with investors and business partners, one of the things I think too is they will get on board for a great ride, but they'll also get on board for maybe even a turbulent ride. But the difference is the premise up front.
Correct.
Right? So everybody's like, hey, I got this great investment. There's very little risk. Everything's going to go right. You're going to double your money. You want in. And people are like, if it vets out, it's like, sure, I want in on that.
Yeah,
but I also might be just as willing to get in if a friend comes to me and is like, hey, man, I got this idea or I got this thing. And here's the way I think it plays out. Yeah. And it's doubling your money and everything goes smooth. But, oh, by the way, here's also 2 pitfalls that I've kind of identified that, like, if this person hits the market before us or if this project, that could mean this or this. And we might need an extra cash call along the way. Hopefully it would be small. At the most it'd be that. Like, and they kind of outlay it. Like, there's still times where I'm like, okay, cool.
Makes sense.
Like, I'm still getting in it, but I'm getting in it with the premise of, like, here's plan A.
Yeah.
And Jordan also warned me about these 2 kind of pitfalls he's seen, and they both could happen, and they might mean some extra capital or something. But then I know what I'm committing to, right? And people will still get on board with that. I think the problems arise when
you only have plan A.
You only have plan A, and then plan B happens, and it's like, well, shit, half these people might have been on board with plan B anyway from the start. Yeah. But they just don't like it that they're getting in on plan B, and it's like, that's not what was talked about, or that's not what, how did you not see this, Yeah.
And that's what I ran into, because like for 10 years, it worked. Like we weren't just 2X, and we were 3X in things. Like
great advice, though. Like if I'm thinking about it now out loud, it's like, man, if you do have a business or an investment that you're raising money for, I would say absolutely 100% you should, anybody you're soliciting or talking to, you should have at least 1 or 2 pitfalls in your pocket that you talk to them about.
Because it can happen. That's the thing, was like, just because it didn't happen to me for a decade doesn't mean it couldn't happen. Like if it was going to happen, I thought it would have been COVID. Right. But some of our best returns came post-COVID.
Right.
And so it just turned into this piece where it's like, even if I said it the way I spoke about plan A, made you think a lot less about what plan B could be. And what I think I would do now is say, hey, here's where it's looking like it's going. But to your point, here's where I see it. Like, so this term sheet, I've seen 100 of these. I've closed the loans, right? But look at these 3 caveats they have in here. One of them is they have a DSCR at 1.3. Mm-hmm. That means if we get a low appraisal or rents aren't as high, the proceeds could come down.
Yeah.
So it's not that we couldn't get the loan, but we're going to have to bring more cash to get the loan. Yeah. And I think it's now, having gone through it, I think it's just I'm a better mix of optimism and realism, where I'm still like, see it, the project still will be there. Like I sold properties at 4 caps, 5 caps, and they sold. I helped people cash the checks. So it's possible. And I think the difference is one of my business partner had the best one. He's just said, hope is not a plan. Remember that?
Well, it is. Right? It's a hopeful plan.
It's a plan. But and so what this one was kind of a 12-chapter piece to breaking all the way down to kind of how I look at what my wealth plan too. So I did a kind of a chapter in there on it, and it's just meant to be a primer across it, but each one of those would be fun to break down in the future of like more deep breakout. But I think I just did it because it felt so alone in it. Mm-hmm. Like when you're going through it, you don't even know what to reach out. Even if I had a mentor, I wouldn't even know what to ask him. And I was like, man, worst case, it's a book that says, look, you're going to struggle. You decide to start a business, there will be struggle. Yeah. You're going to have a payroll issue. You're going to have an L&I issue. You're going to have somebody get hurt on the job and you not know how to do it. You're going to have something.
Well, so much of it, I think, is about, and when I talk to mentors or coaches in the past, you call them sometimes and you want the answer and they don't have the answer, but they have advice that is more of like, helps you reshape perspective. Mm-hmm. On it's not as bad as you might think, or hey, this is going to be hard, but expect hard. And I think a lot of that is valuable as well, right? So sure, it's easy to say, just keep going, put one foot in front of the other, stack another brick. But there's also a lot more that needs to get unpacked there, and I'm sure you did in your book, that gets unpacked with just like, that doesn't, that tells people what to do, that doesn't tell them how to do it, right? And so that to me is one of those things of like, how do you deal with the anger? Yeah. You know, like that's something I had to figure out. How do I deal with the depression? How do I deal with the embarrassment or the shame? How do I deal with the confusion? Those were like the things that I kind of, as silly as it sounds, went to mentors or friends or coaches for. It wasn't like tactically, you know, I don't need to know how to go make another $100,000 and pay a loan back.
Correct.
I need to know how I get my ass out of bed tomorrow because I'm scared as shit or I feel like a failure or but now you're showing up different.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like what I asked tangibly is like, how do I reframe this in a way that I can like still be functional in the next 2 weeks and get through this? Because right now it's very easy to say, oh, have that last phone call in the driveway and then forget about everything and go into your family. Okay, great. That's what to do. By the way, I'm in the house with my family 10 minutes later and I still can't stop thinking about like the 400 other things I need to be doing, right? So it's like, so there was a tactical aspect of like, there's what to do. And then it was like, how do I do it?
Yeah.
Right? Like how do I forget about all these important things that are in my brain, right?
It's super hard. I remember getting like one of the first lawsuits, right? And I basically, because it's delivered, so I pick it up, head to the house. So I'm reading it. And then you're going into the house and it's like, how do you explain? Like, you're supposed to be great, asking Lo how her day's going. And I'm like, what? Like, what am I supposed like, what is this thing? And then, or having that call with an investor, it's like, what's happening? And you're taking that beating, which again, I put myself in the spot, that's fine. But it's like, but it's hard to coach out of. Well, then what's that? How do you move into the next piece with like Wit and Lo when I get into the house? And I feel like I struggled a lot with that. And so I would just work longer hours. I'd get up earlier. I'd go work more. And I found like that is actually not the solution. The solution was clarity around what am I trying to do here, getting the right advice and the right pieces. And for me, it was like I was always protect against that one like silver arrow that comes in and all of a sudden wrecks the whole thing. And it one of the most liberating things that happened to me was that front page article. Because then the worst case that I pictured is there.
The front page article, like all
the brick web,
gets exposed.
It's all exposed. Like that's what I feared the whole time. I'm like, no, I can fix this, and I was fixing it. Right, this turmoil was behind the scenes, and we're fixing it. But then once it hit, I was like, wait a second, that was my worst case vision. Like, and I lived it, and I got breakfast like I was supposed to. I made the calls like I was going to. The world didn't stop. And to be honest, I don't think most people cared beyond that article. It lasted 2 days and then it was on to the next topic. And I think sometimes we work up what this worst case is. What are people going to think when my business doesn't work? What are they going to think when I'm a failure, when I don't show up, when the vision doesn't last, when the dollar doesn't come in? And I think we build up this vision of what everybody else wants from you. And we very rarely ask, what do I want from this? And I think that what a failure allows you to do is strip it all the way down to what do you enjoy? Yeah. And what I found was my goal was just to go push on ceilings, right? If you know my goals, what I'm doing is exactly what I was trying to do, which was like, go test all these things. It didn't come from money, but I want to go see.
There's a great quote that I read recently. I'm I'm reading like 10 books right now at the same time, and I forget where I get stuff. But there's a great quote I recently read, and it says like, all human behavior makes sense with enough information. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of times, the reason I love that quote so much was it's like, there's so many times whether I'm talking to somebody about, politics, or whether you're talking to somebody about like a homeless crisis, or whether you're talking to somebody about just your next door neighbor, and you're like, dude, look at this dude out here in his driveway, like blowing his leaves at 3. Like I don't get it. Like people are really quick to say like, look at somebody else's actions or activity and be like, I don't get it. Like what a weirdo, what a person. And it's like, well, it would totally make sense if you knew what they knew or felt what they felt, right? Like if you knew like what Jordan was or who Jordan was or what drives Jordans, then like your actions make a lot of sense. I think if you're viewing somebody else's activity from your own perspective, the reality is you just lack the information that they. Now it doesn't mean everybody's action is right.
Correct. Right? Agreed. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean I wasn't wrong in the business I was doing. Right.
But it would make sense if they knew it. Well, and I think that's one of the things with like choosing good business partners or getting into business with people or making those decisions is. Nobody is as upset at Jordan as Jordan might be if the other people knew they were getting into bed with Jordan up front and what drove Jordan, and what your goals really were and what you were trying to do. And I think a lot of people probably did know him and just didn't want to admit them to themselves, or maybe they didn't know him, right? Or they knew him and they probably were okay with it. Like I think that's kind of one of those things of like another example I think of is like when you have a kid, I have kids now, but like growing up, I was wrestling, but I always wanted to box. And my parents were not real fond of that. But it's like if you grow up and you're a mom and your son boxes, they're going to come home with a black eye and a bloody lip every once in a while, right? They're going to come home with a broken nose. And it's like, it kind of comes with the territory.
Right.
I think if your kid goes off to school every day and he's not a boxer and he comes home with like a black eye and a bloody lip and a broken nose, you're going to be like, what happened to you? You know? But if your kid's a boxer and they come home that way, you're going to be like, rough day at the gym, huh?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just a different
like, because it would change the perspective. Like, my goals never changed. That's what's funny. I was like, it was still try to push as much from 30 to 40. And then by the time I'm 50, I have $20 million that you make 5% interest or $1 million a year. And I reinvest in small businesses and help them grow. And so my pursuit was learn as many small businesses and how they tick, but not necessarily at the brew the beer level.
Right.
But like, how can I be a better mentor and have this kind of backstock of experience and education and the things that we were doing? And so it's like, well, how can you get there? You don't get to $20 million buying single family home. Well, most people don't get to $20 million buying single family homes. I need the apartment level size. I need institutional size. I need to learn how to finance these things so that I can be better at what I do. Well, that completely changes it if you look at the strategy of that part of it.
Right.
Versus, hey, I was just selfish trying to get it. And I think that context does play a big role. I think what I also found was you get wrapped up in what you do. Because you become what you do in a lot of ways. And I think what this helped me with was stripped down to like, no, I just wanted to kind of build a cool legacy for Lolo.
Yeah.
And so like immediately one of the first things I did was I started 5 companies and they're all called Lolo something. Lolo Studios, Lolo something, because I'm like, that's what I'm going to build going forward. And I think that as I look at it, I'm like, yes, I want to make everything right that we're doing now. And we have those pieces there, but it's hard to communicate across the breadth of all the things happening. And I was like, but at the end of the day, that's really all I ever actually cared about. It just got diluted by better, like good articles about me, good things happening. And you start believing them enough that it distracted me from the whole reason I was doing it. And I think this book is one of those that I would never have happened if none of this would have happened. There's some days I wish none of it would have happened, but it did, right? And I think we're dealt that piece. And as I'm going through kind of these pieces where, I don't know, across a lot of companies, 20%, you're down 20% in sales, you're down 30%. It doesn't mean you failed. It means that, hey, what are we going to do? How do you pick yourself up? How do you build a framework that allows you to navigate that next hard decision?
And I also don't think that means you do it perfect. What I appreciate is more when I meet people like that they're concerned with it. And what I mean by concerned with it means like, they're concerned with those are the things that matter to them. So I've always said like how you lose is more important to me than how you win. Like I like people who have battle scars. I like to see resolve. I like to see grit and determination, but you don't see those things when everything is right.
No.
You know, you see them when things go wrong. But then in addition to that, it's like, I think Gary Vee talks about like, I don't need a peacetime general. Like I need a wartime general.
Yeah.
And that kind of that analogy of like, down the road when I'm making decisions of who to go into business with or what investments to make, when I'm looking for partners or when I'm looking even at myself, I need to know that like I can perform when things are not good.
Yeah.
I can perform when things go wrong. And I think that is a skill set. I mean, like the military talks a lot about it, but like I watched a documentary not too long ago, like on the Navy SEALs, right? And they were talking about buds. And what was funny is the one thing I took from it was they said, I took a lot, but one of the things I took from it was a lot of like collegiate level athletes, like Olympic gold medalists, like swimmers, polo guys, like go into, but they're one of the first to fail out.
Yeah.
Like the more trophies you have on your wall and like the top of the class, and I thought that was like, man, that's weird. That
doesn't make
seems
sense,
odd
right?
to me because it would seem like they had to have the grit, the determination, the tenacity, all of those things to become number ones.
Yeah.
Like to win an Olympic gold medal in water polo, you think that you would have had to have like a bunch of trials and tribulations or injuries or things along the way to have gotten that. So you would have the base fabric of what it would take to be. And they were basically like, no, because they push you so far past inconvenience and a problem, or like they're trying to break you.
Yeah.
So they're really like, they want to see what happens once you're broken.
Yes.
And a lot of those people may have had trials and tribulations to get to where they are and achieve great things, Ivy League school, but a lot of them haven't ever been broken.
Yeah.
And they're like, they're going to break you.
Yeah.
Like they want to know how you react when you actually like physically, mentally break. You're broken. Your body's broken. Your mind's broken.
And what are you going to do now? Yeah.
And that's what they're aiming at. And so they were just saying like, that's what happens. A lot of those people break. And then it's that sitting in your driveway conversation I just had, or this whatever. It's like, because that first time you break it's catastrophic,
uncomfortable,
right? And you don't really know what to do. And I think quitting is obviously a natural I mean, I wanted to. You're like, fine, I quit. This is
Oh,
stupid.
man,
I'm never doing this again. And I think even if that goes away later, quitting in a moment for them, it's just going to ring a bell. You know, I think for me, I quit for probably a couple of weeks or two where I felt bad for myself and wanted to quit. And then eventually it came around to like,
and you realize that just a lot of people, and I think that was the bigger reason was I think I could have waited till we're out of this and it looks, hey, look, this was great on their side, but I think you missed some of the gritty details of what it was. And so it was interesting even reading my journals from a year ago and the panic you can even see in the words to what I do now.
Writing is
the writing is like, and you're like, it's like this, I just don't know what to do. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, geez, that poor guy, like he just didn't know what to do. And you're scrambling because this identity and peace you built for yourself, built by itself in a lot of ways, and I just didn't stop it, now is running the show. Like you should be able to start a business and test it. Hey, we're going to sell coffee mugs. You can get Keith and Jordan's coffee mugs. I should be able to go out and test that. And if it doesn't work, it should be like, well, we tried.
Right.
I put all the math in, it just didn't work. Well, the issue was a lot of these, you can't. They're too big. There's employees. There's community pieces. There's all these parts. And I think that's what I didn't realize kind of through it was they got to the point where, no, they need to be successful. It's not even about me at that point. It's about how do we continue to push on and grow these parts. And I think it's overcoming that. And so now the mental side of it is just, I'm just so much better at it. Doesn't mean that I've solved it, right? I don't even feel like I don't even feel like it's out of it all the way, except for now how I handle it, how I communicate it, how I am at home, how I take time for myself to kind of breathe and think. It's just crazy different. And if I don't even know if I would have sustained going at that other pace. Because to your point, it's like you do have to be broken. And once you get broken, you can figure out how to actually go fix those parts and probably become that better version.
Do you get into some of that in your book, some of those tactics?
Yeah, that's all it is. So it literally breaks it down. And then what I did was I did a behind the brick section. So it's like how I applied it, the specific ones. But it literally just has those and how do you create these systems in your life that allow to mitigate the overly optimistic version of me. So now it has like a decision checklist in there. But it all came from the stuff we talked about.
It's A, how not to get there again, but it's also B, how to deal with being there.
Yeah, and how to daily get out of it and how to daily look there. Because everybody's version of it will be different. I still remember tears in my eyes when I did my first flip and backed out of it and lost $1,000 of earnest money. Because in 2010, just out of law school, like $1,000 was a lot. That pain is probably the equivalent pain now. So I think everybody's problem is still a problem. Just because mine has 7 more zeros behind my problem now, it's still that same feeling inherently humans feel. So whether you're navigating trying to get one employee,
it's anger,
whether you're navigating trying to get one employee's paycheck, it's going to be the same pain that you're trying to solve with my 200.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of what it was crafted to be. And then I just love that concept of building something one brick at a time, because that's not me. I'm the opposite of that. I'm get 500 guys in here. Let's throw this wall up today. And what you miss in that is that you gloss over everything great about the one brick at a time. Like Peyton now, I stare at it with such a different respect. Like they built those one brick at a time. They didn't throw up some wall, just close it in. It's like this detail, and every brick mattered and every piece mattered to it. And I think that's what we miss in this journey is that the hard conversations, the not having, I don't know why I keep using payroll, the big decision to expand, the things like that is our journey. That is the brick we're looking at. And I think the key is stacking them correctly and then building a framework that allows for, I think it gears towards entrepreneurs in a lot of ways, but I think there's also personal things people go through where you just picture what that worst is and you don't realize like we're tougher than that. Everyone's tougher than that. And what I thought this podcast would be is a ton of us talking to like real estate people and how do you develop a property. And all this thing is basically what my book says, is every person on here develops some sort of grit, determination, vision no one else saw, fought through when everybody said not to.
Yeah.
And like, that's kind of what the premise,
dealt with failure.
And so that's really what the book took, was that part of it. Now, whether a full comeback happens this year, next year, 10 years, I don't know. But I think the principles of it were one. I was like, it's worth it. People love it. People hate it. But I think I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I have a pretty good North Star now. So,
well, what's interesting too is when you start to meet enough of these people, and whether it's your story or somebody else's story, and go through it again, it still doesn't make it any easier for you in the moment, other than just to take some harbor in the fact of like, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the part that becomes paralyzing, or the part that I think that I wouldn't say becomes, it either can stop forward progress, or it can also get people's attention focused in the wrong direction.
Correct.
Like when I meet people in those places, and I've been there, and you've been there, and all this and that, is you also can tell right away when somebody's like focusing on the wrong things. They're still focusing on their own misery, their own ego. They're still focusing on like, Jordan, you just don't understand.
Correct.
Like, you don't know.
You've never been through this. Yeah.
Dude, these bricks are, this is so unfair. These are stacked so far. The deck's stacked so hard again. Like, and I can kind of tell. That's when I try to get them, like as a coach myself now, is to get them to reframe of like, okay, stop focusing that direction, because that goes nowhere, right? Like the self-pity, the woe is me, the anger, all that. What we need to do now is to look at where can we find that first brick. And I'm not saying you got to be Mr. like all positive, like wake up, but I'm saying you need to start to focus your attention on effective and productive measures, as opposed to why did this happening to me, and drowning in self-pity and sorrow. And I think that's the other main takeaway I get, is like just listening to how different people got through it, because it's different for a lot of them. Some of them got through it quickly, or at least changed direction quickly. Some people say, man, it took me 5 years, it took me 3 years to get back. And so that's where I dive deeper. I was like, man, what was that like? Like, what were you thinking? Like, where was your head at? Like, how did you deal with your family or your kids? Like, how did you deal with your coworkers? Because to me, that's where the gold lands, and like lies in that nuance. Like, I love hearing those stories because they're so different.
Yeah, I remember still Reed when he was saying he would just stand under his shower every morning.
Read more,
When he was remember?
Saying,
and I'm like, God, that's what you feel like all the time.
For me, it was the driveway. For him, it's the shower.
But you find your place. And I think what I was lacking in my world was just that framework for it. But I think you're going to go through it. I think anything great you're going to go through some type of situation like this to create something great. Now, you could choose not to. You could choose to go a different route. But I think when you make that choice, it's like, how do you arm yourself the best to take on that information, take on that bad news? Because there's no way I'm the only person affected by high interest rates.
Right.
Now, some are less public about it, and some were smarter. Some probably had gone through it and held that back. And I was like, but the reality is it happened. Okay? Can't take it back now. It happened. So what am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to do today that helps move this needle forward? Because the worst thing I could do is abandon it. And I feel like the times I felt like giving up the most, that's what gave me the most strength, was like, no, I can't stop till this is done. And when this is done, I'm going to try to do the best I can to make it right. This is what I want to see. And then out of that came this podcast. Out of it came a book. Out of it came some projects that are doing that. I mean, it's just when you can shift your mindset from woe is me to where's the opportunity, I'm like, that's the win. And then you show yourself, man, I can get through this. I still remember one of the hardest things hardest thing I did was salmon fishing in Alaska, gill net fishing. And there would be open sessions where you'd sleep like an hour a day. We're catching 200,000 pounds of fish. And I could still hear that old engine of the fiberglass boat firing up. And so when this gets really hard, I picture that and I'm like, nope, I still got up and we still caught fish.
Right.
And then it's like, well, how hard is this? And I'm like, quit building this narrative that all this is on, like that there's this weight, because sure there's weight, but I'm building this even more weight with every silent moment that I transcribe some thought that Keith's pissed at me. Well, I haven't even talked to Keith. I should probably go talk to Keith and be like, hey, I understand this didn't go right. Here's what I'm doing today.
So either Keith might not be pissed at you and you haven't talked to him, or Keith really is pissed at you, but he's pissed at you for like a reason you don't understand, which is like, I think Keith's pissed at me because he lost $100,000. No, Keith's pissed at me because I haven't called him in 2 weeks to tell him what the hell is going on, right?
Exactly.
Or whatever the reason is, right?
Exactly. And that's what I found with every call. It wasn't that it was good, right? It wasn't that the call went good. It wasn't that people weren't mad at me or mad or upset or the deal wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. But I think over time, that consistency allowed for, wait a second, this dude's still here. He's still making things happen in a market that don't happen. You're still pushing to get this done and to make it right. And you start building that back. And I think it's one of those hard ones with reputation, trust, all those is like, it takes you 10 years to make and 5 minutes to lose.
Yeah.
And I think when you go through it, it's back to how you communicate it is where the trust is lost.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean a deal can't go bad. Like I've been in deals where I lost all of my money, But I knew going in, I had a chance to like 10x or this
Lose
thing
all
could be
your money.
gone.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was just how it was communicated to me. And so now going forward, I'm 41. Like, it's not like real estate changed a ton. Like, I feel like we built a pretty good confidence to go go do this at a high level. It's like, okay, well, maybe it's going to take me a little longer to get that back, and maybe a little bit different. And it just was. So that book, it was just, I don't know if you're listening and you don't journal, it's probably a good healthy activity, even if it's small to start. But you just kind of can track that, and you look back and like, geez, the person I am now from a year ago is just different. I handle everything more better. I handle things better. I'm not all the way there for sure. But I'm more open to knowing I'm not all the way there. I don't know all these things. I don't know the next step. And I'm like, man, that's the next 20 years could be dangerous. This could be fun because you're applying all those pieces to what that next step, but within this guise of what I actually want from it. And I think that's what kind of came out through writing the book. I think writing in general is therapeutic.
For sure. I think journaling and writing are very therapeutic. And it helps you organize your thoughts, right? It helps you kind of process some of the stuff that we're talking about, because you're talking and it makes me think about, my history or things that have happened, or I'm talking, but it's like a lot of times we don't take the time to self-reflect or even process the things that happen. And like, that's how you learn from them. Right. Yeah. So that's what kind of my big thing nowadays is I'm like middle-aged, is I have this kind of routine part of my days or structures where they all start the same. Like my morning is typically like some sort of like meditation or visualization and stretching. And my evenings are some sort of like journaling or reflecting. Like I just have put those practices in place, not because I'm trying to become some Zen master, but mostly because like I know that in the mornings my days are just going to shoot like a can. Like I'm going to come out like a can. If I don't control the first part of my day, then I'm going to get controlled, right? It's just something I learned. So I have to start my day with like not looking at my phone and taking some me time to kind of organize, okay, what's of priority today? What do I want to focus on? Where am I at? Clearing my mind, getting rid of anxiety, getting rid of stress, and then doing something physical. And then at the end of the day, same thing. It's like, it helps me wind down. Like at the end of the day, I'll be lying in bed with my mind racing. I'll be scrolling, doing so what I've realized is like the practice of just like documenting like how I'm feeling or things that happened, or journaling, just kind of helped me make peace with stuff, but also like understand little things that I learned today, or a little less. So you're like, oh yeah, that did happen. And oh yeah, no, that spurs this thought and this thought. And so for me, I think that's super therapeutic. One thing is like a tangible thing for our listeners, like that I've learned that helped me a lot, just as like a tactic, is with the visualization or the meditation thing, there's a lot of kind of like, thought around like visualizing like what you want, right? Like, so like setting goals and doing visualization is to say like, this is where I want to be in a year or a week. What I would say too is that one of the things I've learned, and I learned this from a great mentor, was like, not only do you need to visualize, if you want to help kind of like manifest or direct where you're going in life, not only do you want to visualize like what you want or where you want to go, but you need to visualize the actual journey. And that was something that I skipped for a long time. Like Keith was really clear about like what my goals were or where I wanted to be. Like, I want to be a millionaire in the next 5 years. Great. But I never once like took the onus of like visualizing what that would look like. What would that journey look like? What would it feel like? What trials and tribulations might I come upon? How would I deal with the headaches? Like, so then what happened was the journey was feeling so disconnected to me because I was like, why am I dealing with this problem? Like, I'm frustrated or I'm angry. How come this didn't go well? And it's like, well, what did you think it was going to be like?
Yeah,
like,
I just become a millionaire.
Because
everyone does, right?
And so that practice, like, man, you dummy, like you kind of need to step back. So again, going back to your little base example of like, we start a mug company. I think the practice of like saying, okay, so what's the goal for the mug company? Okay, the goal is to sell 1 million mugs a year and to make, net $300,000 and have 3 employees. Great, that's the goal. Okay, so what's it going to look like every day?
Yeah.
What's it going to look like every week? It's the process. And so breaking it down to like little teeny pieces, for me, what I'm telling the viewers right now is I think that that's huge for visualization and meditation practices to visualize your success and get where you want to go. It's also the inverse, like at the end of the day or in the morning, if you're not feeling good or things aren't going well, is to visualize what they could or should look like, right? And that was another thing that helped me kind of like shed, like, what does it look like for Jordan not to be angry at me? Yeah. What does it look like for me to make a phone call today to Jordan that I should have made 2 weeks ago and have it go well? Like, disarm that, like, hey, Jordan, this is Keith. Listen, I know I should have called you a lot earlier. I'm sorry I didn't. I just wanted to reach out to, like, it's like I would visualize, because otherwise I'm just dealing with the fear of it. Every day I just am
and the fear is
dreading that phone
debilitating,
call
and it grows.
Right.
And the next day, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's been 2 weeks. How do I call them now?
Now
You're
it's 2 weeks bigger.
right? And
Right.
and I think that's the natural inclination of most people. And I would say that's why 8 out of 10 businesses fail. Is because they picture nowadays, the nice car, the big house, the vacations.
You visualize the what, you never visualize the journey.
Exactly. And I think if more people said, okay, let's just, and going to be 2 parts to this, but let's just write down what that journey looks like. To your point, I think it's a really good point. But in mine, where my clearest path came was when I wrote down everything.
Everything, yeah.
Everything. And sometimes it was hard to write and you don't even want to look at it. I didn't want to look at the bottom number. I didn't want to look at the top number. I'm like, but there was something about seeing it all and being like, okay, now let's build a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's attack this in the right way.
Well,
And
it keeps you realistic too. Because there's been times where I thought $500,000 was going to save my ass.
Yeah.
And I was facing $100,000 worth of bills, and it's like, no, you're facing $240,000 worth of bills, and it's like, where did it go? And it's the same thing. It's like all the little details that you've been ignoring or that you don't want to face, and so like writing down every little detail of everything, like this is the hole that I'm in, or this is where I need to go. And it doesn't even have to. We keep pitching this like it's negative all the time.
No.
The inverse of these is positive. It's like every little step along the way of success. It's the same thing, like hiring that third employee or the culture you're going to build. I think for me, that has been a very impactful and what I would say, not only an impactful practice to implement, but now it's a necessity in my day and in my life. Like I don't like to get into anything, or I don't like to think about getting into a whole lot without taking the time to visualize what that's going to do for my life or look like, or how it's going to affect me or my family or impact the other things I'm doing. Yeah. And it's hard. I think that's the reason most people don't do this. It's strange and it's hard. What I can tell most people is if you start to implement that practice, it becomes just routine.
Yeah. And it becomes some piece, and it just gives you that better perspective on it. And I definitely fell victim to that, of just seeing the vision, because I have to see the finished version. And I think it helped me sometimes because I was ignorant of the process. Mm-hmm. And so it helped me create some things that probably should never have been created. But then what I realized was, well, I still probably could have done it. I just would have been more realistic, and we wouldn't have these weird, like, well, what about this? And I think as I'm going through it now, it just really gave me a ton of clarity on what it's for. And even writing the book, I'm like, I just want to write it because I think it would be great to leave to my daughter. Like, I think it'd be great if she could come through. She saw that version of me. She saw this version of me. Then I'll write one more for her. And it kind of all spurred from this. One of my buddies was like, yeah, so he's putting together this estate plan. And so you have all the passwords and stuff in one spot in case something happens to you. And so Whitney wouldn't have, but would have everything. And one of the things he did was write a letter to his daughter in there. And I'm like, oh. So that's where it started from. I'm like, but how do I even explain this? Like, what advice would I give her? Yeah. And some of the advice was like, it'd be great to say, hey, look at real estate, and I'm like, no, the advice is, how do you survive adversity? Yeah. Who are you when times are the hardest?
Well,
did you
To
run?
know
did you
how
stay?
You built it and what it took or what it's going to take them. There's a great book called Entrusted. I think I'm not screwing that one up. Forget Entrusted? Who the author is. Entrusted. And it's about not only just setting up a trust to pass down legacy wealth, but it's also about setting your family up to receive the wealth. And how it's just as important to kind of have a family mission, or to have like to prepare them for the money. Like it's all great to say, I'm going to become a millionaire and leave my family or generations of my family a bunch of wealth. But then we know from various stories that's a terrible idea, and it wrecks people and it wrecks. But a lot of times it's because they're not prepared for it.
Correct.
And so what I think about like my journaling or writing, or what, like you're talking about your books, it's like it also helps prepare them to receive, even if they weren't a part of it. It's like, you need to know what dad's struggle and strife was like, or you need to know what grandpa did to create this, not just so that you maybe appreciate it more or respect it, or, wow, that's cool, I never knew that. But also because you might very well be faced with those exact same scenarios or situations if you plan on holding on to this. Yeah. Like if you plan on like doing anything remotely similar, or even just maintaining, this is what you're in for, right?
You're going to face it.
It's like when they read Grandpa's story and they're like, man, this dude was constantly navigating muddy, unclear, turbulent times, dealing with adversity, overcoming. Okay, like that ingrains in them, like, okay, I need to prepare myself to like that's what's in my future.
Yeah,
right?
and then you're not caught off guard. Like I even think about now, we're doing a big renovation at Central Park. So there's it's down off by the apartments we built there off I-90 by the Broadway exit. Well, we're tearing down, the building was built in 78, I believe, 74, 78, but it was all racket and tennis.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're now tearing down these racquetball courts. Well, at the time they built them, that was the sport. You played racquetball. It was there. And now, all of a sudden, what are we putting in?
80s-esque.
Exactly.
I feel like racquetball. Was racquetball
Racket
an
and
80s
squash.
thing?
Yeah. 80s, probably even 90s.
Because I feel like tennis was like 50s, 60s, maybe 70s. I mean, probably before, but tennis was the sport, and then racquetball came in.
Yeah, and guess what we're putting in? 2 pickleball courts.
Pickleball.
And that's why I'm like,
for all the rage
exactly.
now, man.
And they're gonna be sweet. It's gonna be awesome. But then I think about it for Logan. Even if I build this thing that's like supposed to last over time, it's not.
No, someday
Functionally,
people will be
something's
like,
going to
yeah.
change, and you need to be prepared to. How do you adjust for it? How do you see it coming? And really good one. I forget the name of the book, but it was basically talking about the difference between the Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts. So Vanderbilts had more money, but their wealth only lasted 3 generations before it was spent. Rockefellers are now in their 7th generation, and it's like, how do you build? And so that's kind of what I will get back to. Like, that's what I want my legacy to be. It doesn't have to be. I don't want a public legacy. I just want one internally where I taught Logan and taught maybe those around me were like, hey, this is how we could set it up so you don't have to do that. Well, if you read about the Rockefellers, it's all about working hard.
Yeah.
Every generation still has to work hard. You still have that. You know there's a safety net, but you still are trained and kind of shown how to do that. And I think it would be really, like I saw my dad get up at 1 a.m. to do a paper route after he had just worked coaching till 9 p.m. Like I saw that, but I could have lived a life if this didn't happen where Logan never saw the pain. Never.
Yeah.
And even now I don't show, it's not like I go home like, hey, Logan, help me work through this. Right. And so like, but part of me, to your point, is like, I think you have to understand that anything great comes with turmoil. It comes with something like this. Like if you don't own any real estate, I'm not getting calls about graffiti on one, a leak in the other, power outage in the other, a tenant squatting in another. But
well, we've talked about this before too, but it's also like choose your heart.
Yeah.
Because like life is going to be hard and have tribulations for everybody. And I think for me, I've just chosen what I've chosen. So maybe they look different than other people. It doesn't mean they're not going to have them. So for my kids, like even if they choose like what I would consider a safer career route, they're still going to have people in their life that die, that get sick. They're still going to stub a toe. They're still going to lose a job, get a job,
a relationship
get in a car
go
wreck,
wrong,
go to a divorce, get a baby. Like life is hard. Yeah. And I think we've done, and you know, it's another underlying theme is like we've done a really good job societally of trying to constantly remove hard, like creating luxury, creating comfort. You know, every magazine, every advertisement is like, white sandy beach, chair, cocktail service. It's like, how can we get all the luxury and remove all the hard? Like that to us has somehow become the pinnacle of success. It's like, oh,
it's convenient.
Your displaying of your success is like the removal of strife or struggle or hard, right? Not having to mow your own lawn. I mean, so I think everybody in life, A, is going to have that, but B, the removal of it is near impossible. But I think the C line for me is choosing what you decide to remove from your life and keep from your life as an adult is, I think, telling, but also prepares you for the future. But it's also for your kids, it's hard. It's hard for me to make those choices for my kids. Like, I think I'm doing them a favor, but I'm also robbing them of hard.
Exactly.
Which itself is a benefit, right? Like ancillarily, right? Like those trials and tribulations are learning lessons. And so I don't want to, throw them overboard and feed them to the sharks, but I also don't want to like keep them up in the tower all day and never have them like get in a lifeboat, right? Like, so it's like, hey man, we've got to kind of navigate this minutia as adults with our children, and I think that's just tough. I think the problem is we don't do a very good job of navigating that minutia with ourselves.
Correct, and that's the issue, right? And that's what I found when I was going through this. Is like I wasn't even solving my own stuff. How am I supposed to go out and do this? And I think it's because we didn't have that. Because every time, like as a parent, you want the best for your kid, and sometimes the best was removing what you thought was really hard in your life, and the accomplishment was, hey, I removed that. And I talk to my dad about it all the time, and I'm like, but no, it was in seeing you do that where I understood that food doesn't just show up on a plate.
Yeah.
We don't just go places. Like we don't just like that's a thing. Like you have to work for. And I think that in my world is like, no, I want to provide this life we never had. And I'm like, but I had a pretty good life. Like it's not like I grew up fine. It was just these pieces that I think it's easy to gloss over because like it's a really good show, 1883. But like those, they were coming. It's the Taylor Sheridan one, Tim McGraw. But they're coming across the plains, getting bitten by snakes, trying to sleep. And I'm like, you're talking about 120 years.
Yeah, it's not that long ago, really. In the grand scheme of things, it was not long ago.
And we're removing, and so it's like really one of the easiest, safest times to live now. But I would argue we're more lonely, less connected. And so I think it's trying to bring that back and understanding. But I think a lot of that comes from kind of fulfilling the purpose-driven elements.
I think it's easy to romanticize where you're not.
Correct.
As well.
Always.
Right. It's easy to go, man, they didn't have to deal with like the internet and cell phones and like this kind of romantic life of riding a horse. But then I think the people there were like, no Gore-Tex, no heat, no plumbing. Like, it's like, it wasn't that romantic, right?
Yeah. Or even go out and try to do like Yellowstone. You don't want to go ride horses and take cattle across, but you don't want to do it. Yeah. Like, it just, trust me, you don't.
I've done it. And it's definitely,
but like as a day
for a week or for a weekend or a hobby or something.
Perfect dude ranch.
Yeah, exactly. But living life that way is just different. But we've done that since the beginning of time. And I think, what I'm getting back to, or the point I'm trying to make, is I think that what I've seen in my coaching career with people, or even in my own life, is one of the most telling and yet frustrating things as an adult can be, is when you realize you're in a situation that you did not prepare yourself with or for, and you have removed sort of some of the fundamental things that you should have been doing along the way. And it's like going to the doctor at middle age and having your doctor tell you that like you need a serious lifestyle change because you haven't taken care of your body and you have like 5 or 6 ailments. Yeah. And the problem is like there's some anger and frustration, like, man, like I kind of knew the whole time that I should have been like maybe taking better care of myself, and I wasn't, but now I'm here now. But now there's also like there's no quick way to get back.
No.
Right? Like it's not like you don't just start working out tomorrow and these problems go away. It's like you don't start eating right tomorrow and these problems go away. It's like, no, you did this to yourself, right? Like you weakened your body and your immune system and your physicality and your whatever, created bad habits to a point that you're here now, but now there's this long road back. And I think that feeling, that frustration, that aha also happens in business, but it also happens like for me, it's like with my kids, like that's what I don't want to give them. Yeah. Right? Like I'm like, I got to keep them to where it's like, make your own decisions, but my dad's job is to keep you a little bit tough, right? Yeah. It's to keep you a little bit rough. It's to give you those trials and tribulations so that you're prepared for those moments when they come along. And you don't look at me and go, Dad, like, what the hell, man? Yeah. What did you do to me? Right?
Exactly.
I didn't know this was a thing. So, I don't know. Again, I think that process of visualization and reflection are the two things I always lean back on. That for me, if the biggest thing is like they help curb that. Yeah. Not getting myself in a situation I didn't see coming. Yeah. Or that I don't know how to get out of.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I agree. Actually, I agree. I was trying to think how to put it in words, but I think I didn't do a very good job reflecting, right? Yeah. Unless I had to. And the only time I had to was when it didn't work like I thought. And then, so there was never this reassessment of, did I even want to do that? Should we have done that? How much bandwidth do I have to even do that? Like there was just never it was just always visualization. And I think visualization is great. It helps you in a lot of ways, but without reflecting or really consciously, objectively looking at what does it take, you'll end up in yes mode, and yes mode killed me. Like could have had all of those. So how do you?
I'm just curious. Like, how do you? So you know these things about you now, or I know these things about me now. How do you deal with when you start to see them rear their own head again?
Read the book.
Okay.
Literally, because I can convince myself of a lot of things. Yeah. Like I'm just convincing.
Well, we all can, yeah.
Right. And it's like, so for me, I needed a black and white path to where it's at. And I think you had said it in like our second podcast, but kind of how you assess things. Well, one of your filters is, it's not, can I do it? It's, should I do it? Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces I took from it. It's not, can I build out of it? I know I can. Like, I know I can do it. I know I can get the financing. But what I'm realizing is even these like, hey, I didn't have to put any money in. Okay, but it's costing 40 hours a week. Mm-hmm. So you did put money in. You just did it this way. And so for me, I just needed a really clear framework. And so what I created in there was like this, obviously a cheesy name, but it's a brick. And so it's this analysis. So it's a five question analysis to anything before I do it. And so it seems to work pretty well. It's
your filtering mechanism.
Mm-hmm. So it's called the brick filter. And so it's just like, being able to go through it and be like, nope, that one doesn't fit. And now it's like so easy. Yeah. Like I should have done something like this before because it makes it super easy to understand. And now there's some that flirt the line where I'm like, okay, that one's kind of close. And I think if I was starting from zero, it'd be a lot harder. But like with where I'm at now, is like, I have pretty good assets. I just need to get them to productivity where they should be. Don't need to bring on more to do that. I just need to make these ones great. And then as we look at opportunities, it's where is that time? And that time became much more of a component of my decision making than it was before, because I'm learning very quickly. You can't outwork everything.
Can't outwork everything. And again, for me, the aha was the modus operandus of like, it was more like my default modes. It was me getting hip to and paying attention to my defaults.
Yeah.
So one of my defaults was like hard work would solve all problems.
Yeah, agreed. That was one of mine.
And it is very helpful, and it will solve a lot of problems, but it won't solve all of them. And then you're kind of like, well, now what? I shot every arrow in my quiver. Like, I'm out of arrows, man. I don't know. Like, I'm reaching back, or I keep reaching back for the same one, and it's just like tinking off the target. Like, it's not making an impact. But the other was also like I was alluding back to this a little bit with you, is like, when you see those habits or whatever rearing their head, like, how do you deal with them? Like, for me, it's like, I'm a deal junkie. I love a good deal. And I am a challenge junkie. So when you pair those two things, like, you get me real good, right? So like that was for me having to realize, like, Keith, you don't have to buy every deal, or like you don't have to even investigate or look at every deal. Because for me, I was like, oh, there's a deal. It's a deal. It's normally this. It's for this. Like, what's the deal? What's the deal? And then the icing on the cake is if you like coded it with some sort of like a challenge as to like why everybody else had passed on the deal.
Correct.
So like, Keith, I got a deal for you. It would be like you know, I would be
They
like
know
hook,
the
line,
Keith
and sinker.
deal.
They're like, show them a deal, and then show them a deal that's really difficult or has this nuanced way that needs to be done. And then I was all in. And the irony, right, is that it worked and it was effective and it gave me an edge where I got in front of a lot of my competition, right? Like, I was able to build a legacy and build a thing for myself that most people kind of, I would say, somewhere in awe at, or somewhere like they're like, man, like, look at him go. Like, dude, this guy's unstoppable. He's like, you know, he's making like, you know, good out of situations that don't look that good. But then I got addicted to that. And then and then I was like, but then when it didn't work, then it was like, then you looked even dumber. Yeah. Because people were like, what do you mean you did that? Of course it was a deal. Did you see all the people that passed on it, right? And I'd be like, yeah, but... So
the thing called red
like,
flags.
Right.
Well, do you think you got addicted to it or the story of it? Like, that's what took me the longest time to understand. Because I would argue, like when I was doing Brick West, I was like, I see the opportunity for one, but I also think this could be really cool for the community if we build up this part of town. But then when stuff started happening and going that way, I was like, did I do it for that, or did I do it because chances are it would be in the paper and people would think better? And it took me, the longest thing it took me, and it was ego. So it was around that. Reading Ryan Holiday's book,
Ego's the Enemy,
right? And it took me a long time to realize like that balance between the two, because I think genuinely it's what I wanted. But then there was this awesome piece to your point where they're like, man, he's doing everything. And you're like, yeah, it's a compliment, thank you. But like, was it driving me to then do another one and do another one? And I think that's where I caught myself and I lost sight of what I wanted from it. And when it started, it was like, I just wanted a cooler office for 4 degrees. Like, that's how it all started. Like, I was like, we're growing. We need a bigger office. I want to renovate one.
So I want to make a really cool one.
Yeah. And it just was the simplest form, but it took me the longest time to separate those two. And to the point where I think everyone has an ego, even if you control it, you know it, or aware of it, but was that driving the ship? And that took me a while to understand.
Well, and ego's not, again, ego's the enemy. Ego's not all bad if it drives you to do good things for a good purpose. I mean, if you feed 1 million starving people for your ego, I don't know, right? Now we're gonna have a conversation like,
what's starving?
Okay, well, 1 million starving people got fed. He did it for the newspaper article, so it's like, but for me, it was like there's the aha of like, I'm a deal junkie and I love a good challenge, but then the modus operandus became that's what I sought and that's what I seeked. And whether it was for ego purposes or it was just kind of the story I told myself of like, my success didn't need to just be success. Yeah. My success needed to be success in the face of adversity, and success in the face of adversity overcome that most people couldn't overcome.
Yeah. Did something no one else could do.
And it was like, well, that's pretty stupid,
that's really
Keith.
specific.
You can be successful and not be stacked with adversity and not have to overcome impossible. It was like, and I was like, God, that was really dumb. Like, I don't know why. So again, but it was it was realizing, right, or becoming aware of those triggers or those things. And now today, my job is to just not necessarily avoid or to do things much differently other than it's to be aware of those when they rear their head, right? Like I'm very, I would say, at least I think I'm very in tune with when I start to feel those urges, like that addiction or that whatever you call it. It's like, oh, Keith, like you're getting that look in your eye or you're getting that feeling in your stomach of here's this thing, right? And it's this scary big thing and most people wouldn't do it and you have an opportunity to do it and it's a deal. And I'm like, okay, wait.
And I think that's all you're trying to create. I don't think it's as black and white as like, all right, now you're never going to do it again. The hardest part about it is you're better at it and probably could do it better now. Like when I look at like what I can do now development wise, I'm like, if somebody wanted a building done, I bet I could save them 25%.
Yeah.
Like I just from what I know, having walked them and done them, and like Chris Batten would save you even more, right? And I think the issue is like build a framework that allows you to kind of go through it and analyze it, because what you'll realize is it's like I don't smoke, but my assumption is if you go cold turkey smoking, it's hard.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's as much as like, okay, I'm never going to do a deal again. I'm not going to look at a deal again. And so what I found was a filter where I still look at deals. I don't give it as much time as I used to, but I'll still look at it and really be like, okay, nope, it didn't answer these 5 questions. And I've yet to have, the issue is now that it's coming back, rates are down, projects are going again. I'm like, I'm getting more calls and it's just, I say no more. Probably the most proud thing is I say no more than they ever have in my life. And it's like, no, I want Brick West to be awesome again. Like it worked. To your point, you doing crazy cool, like it worked. You were that person in the community doing it. It worked for me. We grew a brewery to the second largest brewery in the region, like having no experience.
Yeah.
We did build all those things. And what I realized at the end of it was like, okay, that wasn't for me. Like I've got to really come up with the framework on it. And I think now watching it and looking back, it's like, it wasn't all bad.
And like, did it work because of or in spite of your behavior, right? That's another question I ask myself all the time. It's like, Keith, did it work, because of or in spite of all, I just didn't, I refused to fail. I would put in the extra hours. I would do, it's like, well, it didn't really work because it was a great idea. It was a good deal. It worked because it worked in spite of the fact that you wanted it to work so bad you were willing to put in,
Yeah.
And I think for me now, just speaking, from this seat today, is I'm at a stage in my life now where like the reason I'm so aware of and try to be so aware of those situations is because what I've realized for me more than anything is I tow a much bigger tote of people with me now. And so a 26-year-old Keith, a 36-year-old Keith, the detriment or the downfall was much different than having, 2 young kids and a household. And it's like, well, now Keith, you're affecting a lot more people and a lot more things. And so the addiction hasn't changed. The triggers haven't changed. Yeah. I just have a little bit more resolve to say no or to look at
filter. Your filter changed.
Right.
And I think that's what I would push on anybody is like, I still recommend you push. You just would have a different filter at 20 versus 30 versus 40.
Right.
Just build a filter. Right? Because then you're going into that one where I have a plan A, but I understand my plan B. Because you have a filter and your eyes are wide open to it, and then you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And so I don't think I have much advice I would have given the younger me. I would have been like, go for hell, man. You're like, push it. You had it. It's just at a certain point, what you would never understand at 20, 30, it's like, when's that enough? When's that piece there? But I remember consciously thinking when COVID hit of like, all right, everybody, smart money's pulling it all off the table. Like,
I had that same conversation.
Like, I literally had this. I vividly remember it. And I doubled my money.
I did too, and I doubled down. But I doubled down again, probably for ego. But it was that same thing. Super big challenge. Yep. Most people are going to run the other way.
Yep. There's opportunities that are here
towards,
now. Yep.
And I knew, but I did at that point. I remember having a conversation with my wife for one, but then I also did have a conversation with myself of like, Keith, if you lose it all in this moment, is it okay?
Is it worth it? Yeah.
And I remember consciously being like, if I lose it, I lose it. But I'm doubling down, and the bet worked till it didn't.
Till it didn't. And that's mine, right?
And then at the end it was scramble, like tie up, the loose ends. And it was.
I mean, mine of like one day on the comeback one, I'll write the story. But I mean, it's 6 months from being a completely different story.
For sure.
Literally under contract, ready to close, just had to finish the building. And in 6 months in 2022, rates went up so much. It gutted all the profit I had built for the last 4 years. And so, but it's again, like that story could define you or it could motivate to push to get this next piece.
And I think my only, I would say, lucky break there or differentiation was I saw a little bit of the writing on the wall, and I remember having a conversation with a business partner, and we didn't think things weren't going to shift and we weren't going to get pitched, but we drew a line.
Yeah.
So I drew a line. I remember saying to him, like, hey, if we keep doing what we're doing, we can keep making the money we're making. But just know if things shift, like this is my projection.
Yeah.
And it could mean losing a couple $100,000 each. And so we both were like, okay. But then I shifted my operation at that point to absorb that specific hit. Yeah. And it was about right. Like I wouldn't say I was exactly right, but it was about right. Like when things turned, I lost about what I thought I was going to lose, which sounds crazy, but I was like, I'm going to lose a couple $100,000. And I did. Yeah. But I ran for 4 years. Yeah.
And that's where I built most of the wealth. Like on mine, the hard part was like I talked to mentors after, but like, I mean, I did projects, they're 24-month lifespans. Even if I want to stop, there was no stopping. And that's kind of what I'm dealing with now is like, man, it's just that you weren't able to stop. I had to finish it, had to get it done. Rates are there. All of a sudden, fundamentally, didn't underwrite to that. So I think it's just life's going to happen no matter what. Like there's going to be a stock market crash. There's going to be a recession. There's going to be growth. There's going to be bear markets, right? And I think that the key is just kind of fundamentally building those filters and in kind of non-negotiables for yourself to help navigate it because it's going to be good and it's going to be bad. Like you hear a lot of podcasts stuff. It's like entrepreneur's life. You have 2% of happiness. Like the other 98% is navigating.
I feel like mine's more than that. But
what they forget to throw in is like some of the happiness is the grind.
Oh, for sure.
Is the journey, is the peace. And so I think that
fighters like to fight. Yeah, you know what I mean? That's what a lot of people don't know is that boxer that comes home with the black eye and the bloody nose is like they don't like that they got it. Yeah. But they're not real unhappy about it. Yeah. Right?
Exactly.
And I think that's the entrepreneurial life is you got to just know that's what you're in for. But I think most of them do. And we'll bitch about it right when we get smacked. And then a couple weeks later or a couple months later, like we'll take the battle scars. Like, oh yeah, this is where I got that,
And to that point, I love it. Next round, it'll just have a different function. So,
well, I can talk about this all day. I know you can too.
It's been good.
But looking forward to your book coming out, Stacking Bricks by Jordan Tampien. Gonna hit the shelves within a week or so?
Yeah, within a week. That's kind of
cool. Yep.
Yeah, and so I'll have some more posts and stuff coming out. And like I said, mostly it was a guide for Lolo, but I think there's parts in it that if you're
I've got a little bit of a sneak peek, but I'm looking forward to reading the whole thing cover to cover, and I think so are the listeners. So thank you, man. Appreciate it. Paying it forward. See you guys next time. And if you have not, please take a moment to like or subscribe. And if you like this episode at all, or you think it'd do wonders or benefit somebody else that you know, please share.
Thanks.
All right, you guys, thanks for listening to today's episode. While you're out there, would you please do us a favor and give us a like, subscribe, or a follow, whether you listen on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you don't mind while you're there, give us a 5-star review. Maybe write a review. If you have a favorite episode, feel free to give it a like. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it.